The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
And hello and welcome to the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Darren Jaime, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our community. First up, our legal correspondent, David Lesh, will recap on the issue of teacher layoffs and student rights. Also, Ken Han, author of You Can't Take the Bronx Out of My Dad. He'll be here to talk about his book. Plus, we'll have a very special guest who's the founder and owner of Actors Technique New York. They'll discuss experiences as an acting coach to 3, 13, and 30-year-olds interested in business. And also the founder of Lit World is here. That's an organization trying to increase literacy and understanding across borders and continents. And finally, we'll have live exclusive footage of 2 events, one on changes in services to juvenile and adult offenders, and the other on the 180th anniversary celebration of the New York School for Special Education. So we encourage you, because stay tuned, all this and much more is heading your way, because right now we're officially open. I'm your host, Darren Jaime. We welcome you to Open. Today is Wednesday, June 22nd, 2011. And of course, you are watching Open, the one and only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York straight to your TV set. So feel free to give us a call at 718-960-7241. Or you can send us an email or check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And there you'll be able to comment and send us some information in regards to yourself. Or you can talk about show topics. Well, today in our legal corner, attorney and legal correspondent David Lesh joins us now, discussing the issue of teacher layoffs and the rights of students. He's also giving us some new info on his program that's airing right here on BronxNet, a new program called Today's Verdict. And David, good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, Bronx Legal had a nice 2-year run, but it was picked up by a couple of stations throughout New York City. And I think the producers and I felt it was necessary to at least change the name so it was a little more user-friendly for the rest of the boroughs. So we chose Today's Verdict, and last night was the premiere episode. We went live, and the first episode dealt with teacher layoffs and how it affects students. We had a professor on, Professor Natalie Gomez-Velez from CUNY Law School, who was a terrific guest. And basically, what she was talking about, she gave a little bit of a history of the school system itself and how the mayor took over in 2002 and the changes that have been made since then. And what most people do not realize is that when the mayor took control in 2002, and we had a couple of teacher advocates who came on in the second half of the show to really push this point forward, that the public lost a lot of power in deciding the type of education their children should be getting.
Right.
Now, I grew up in the public school systems of Queens, the elementary school, junior high school, and high school, and there was a profound difference in each school that I ended up going to. My elementary school was really terrific. My junior high school, not so great, and my high school was okay. And why should that be? And a lot of it had to do with class size. My elementary school had a very small student-to-teacher ratio, whereas junior high school, I had at least 35 to 40 kids in my class. That wasn't the same thing for elementary school. That seems to be the problem now in most of the schools throughout the Bronx and throughout New York City. The student-to-teacher ratio is growing. The cuts that are coming, and that's we discussed last night in the show, is going to directly affect that because they're going to lay off almost 6,500 teachers coming in September. And if that happens, what do they have to do? You have less teachers, you got to increase class size. So the crux of the show last night was basically what could you do as a parent to prevent this from happening? And there are certain organizations now that are bringing lawsuits or pushing through the courts ways to stop the mayor from instituting these layoffs. And I guess we'll see sometime in September whether this actually goes through.
What else can we expect from today's verdict? Because obviously it's a big season coming up.
Big season coming up. I think we're going to shoot every 2 weeks. We have the NFL lockout coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to see what that's going to bring, what type of guests we're going to have. I'd love to have a professional player on. I don't know if by contract if we can get that, but we certainly will discuss the lockout from the owner's perspective, from the player's perspective, contractually, whether you can lock somebody out, because it's a legal show. Today's verdict is still a legal show, just like Bronx Legal, and most of the shows are going to have a legal flair to it, and we're going to try and hit the topics that are really important to the average Bronxite and to the average New Yorker. We're going to hit a lot of immigration issues. That's always a big one. A lot of landlord-tenant issues. People want to know exactly what their rights are with respect to their landlords, and just your general issues, your day-to-day. Those are the types of things that people want to know. With the old show, we hit a couple of topics involving, embryonic stem cell and frozen embryos, and whether you can sell them or not sell them in surrogates. So we've hit some topics that are very interesting, but that they may not appeal to every Bronxite that watches. Today's verdict will hit a little of everything, and I think in terms of the packages that we're going to put together and the reporting that it's going to be out in the field, that I think people are going to be very happy with the show. I know last night I was happy with it, and I enjoyed the guests. I think the graphics are great. I think it's going to take a little while to really get comfortable with it. But certainly it's going to be shown in a lot of the other boroughs, and I appeal to the viewers that if they do have an issue or a topic that they would like to see discussed on today's verdict, just email me at davidlesh@bronxnet.org, and don't be shy, whatever you think it is, and I'll see if I can deal with it. And it's a call-in show too. Call in,
right?
And I'm very, very excited about it.
Talk about today's verdict. Let's talk about today's topic.
All right. Well, today's topic is dealing with students' rights, and that has a lot to do with student and parents' rights. Students now, they go to school, they get their cell phones taken away, they end up in detention. What are the rights? Students don't have very many rights in school. What they do have a right to is a very good education, and that's very important. And that had to do a little bit of what we were talking about last night in today's verdict in terms of the student-to-teacher ratio. I was talking to one of the guests offset before I came on, and the issue is, how do you approach a situation where you feel your child's not getting the type of education you want, and you generally have to do it through the appeal system in the system itself.
Right.
You can't bring it to the court system unless it's more of a class action. Or the campaign for fiscal equity is a campaign to get better funding for the school system. For various programs.
Right.
That was discussed last night in the program. Now that can be brought in the court system because it's really more of a class action. It's not per individual student. If it was an individual student, your child, my child, that would be different. Then you got to go through the administrative process, and then if you want your child transferred for either a special transfer or a safety transfer, again through the system. But if it's a big change in your New York City public school, and you want more money for certain after-school programs or even gym programs or athletic programs, you got to do it within the system. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that, and they don't really take the time to find out how they can make sure that their child is getting the type of education.
Same thing applies to students in terms of that. You got to go within the system.
Always within the system. You have to go within the system, an administrative process, and that's how it works. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't going to be times, that you can appeal in a federal level. You go to the federal court system if you feel you're not getting civil rights protections, if they're being discriminated against based on color, based on gender. That would be different. You can bring a Title VII action in federal court, but you generally don't see that. More often than that, it's that no one's watching my child learn. No one's checking, that he's done his homework when he comes back into school. They're running around class. They're not really learning. And yet the teachers' advocates that came in yesterday, because I said, well, it doesn't look like the graduation rates are any different. If anything, they're better now that the mayor has taken over the school system. And the advocate said, well, look, that may be true, but that doesn't mean that they're learning anymore, or any better. It means that the teachers have the pressure of graduating their students, but they're not any better students. And that's important to know. So just because your child is making it to the next grade doesn't necessarily mean that they're learning as much as they could be learning. And some of the charter schools are taking care of this, yet some of the charter schools, they're not doing as well either. So it's all about money. It's all about funding and getting the right funding to get as many teachers as you can to protect the students. And it's the student ratio. They convinced me. Because, on the show, I try and play devil's advocate many times. And I say, look, the city's running out of money. Where are you going to take it from? The police? You can take it from the firemen? The court system? Where are you going to take the money from? It's got to come from somewhere. We don't seem to be raising taxes, so where's it coming from? But yet, they convinced me that education was so important and the student-teacher ratio is such an important thing to keep that I would love to find money anywhere else to see if we could fund that. And I think it was a very, very important issue because it trickles down. It trickles down to all of us. If there's not money for student after-school programs, where's the student going to go? Where are they going to do? Are they going to hang out with their friends? And without any structure.
And we saw throughout the last few weeks, and actually the last few months, we've had people here on set who've argued about the fact of restoring funding to city schools and going to Albany and making their case known, and they did it in a legal sense and a non-legal sense, and still were able to see some things accomplished.
Well, they've had some accomplishments. Certainly in 2009 there was a referendum on the mayor's ability to control the schools. They've had some minor changes now. Parents can get a little bit more involved in the process, but getting involved is one thing, but getting money to fund the programs is another, and I think that's the problem. It's getting the money into the system. The mayor feels that everybody has to cut back, and in terms of the Board of Education, it's cutting back on teachers, laying off 6,000, 7,000 teachers. It's going to be devastating for the school system. I asked the person on set, well, does this mean that there's going to be some closings of schools? And she said, no, that's not going to really necessarily happen. It's not the closings of schools, it's the expanding of the classroom. So we're only going to see what's going to happen in September. Hopefully they can prevent it. The Campaign for Fiscal Equity can prevent it. Take money from other places that they feel the school system has and is not using properly. Unions, different unions that are spending money within the school system, contractors, that type of thing. Take it from there and use it in the classroom. But whenever you're taking money from one group to another, there's always going to be a legal battle going on. And we'll just see where it heads.
All right. Well, David, we'll continue to follow this up. David Lesh, as always, and congratulations on today's verdict.
Thank you very much.
All righty. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to talk to Ken and talk about his book, his new book, actually. You Can't Take the Bronx Out of My Dad. Find out exactly what we're talking about when we return right here on Open.
How you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.
If only child abuse were this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call 1-800-4-A-CHILD. All calls are anonymous and confidential. Trust your instincts.
Megan, you're a tramp. Ryan Fitch told me you guys made out. Everybody knows. He says you're the most desperate girl he knows, besides your mom. How many boyfriends does she have anyway? Lots? That zit is huge. Zit face. Ugly.
Mom, I'm not gonna go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job and...
Son, college is much more important.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom.
Yes.
Anyways, it's my decision.
Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college.
I'm lucky. Let me help you with that. I get to do something I love. It has nothing to do with touchdowns or titles.
Everybody bring it in.
I get to play a part in the life of someone just starting out.
How many of you think homework is just as important as teamwork?
I help keep kids in school.
Good.
And that's the name of the game.
My name is LaDainian Thomason. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United.
Did you know that getting up and getting active for just 60 minutes a day is all it takes to help you get stronger, look better, and feel great?
Or that fresh fruits and veggies aren't just healthier and crunchier, they can taste better too?
Eating better and getting more active is easier than you think.
Yeah! Keep watching for some fun and easy ways to discover the magic of healthy living in your life.
America.
Let's get healthy together!
Welcome back to Open. Darren Jaime with you. Remember, Open is a live and interactive talk show, so we encourage you to keep your heart, your channel, and most of all, this channel wide open. And all you got to do is give us a call or send us an email or Facebook us, and guess what? We'll respond back to you. Well, now, Ken Hand, he actually grew up in the Bronx in the 1970s and the 80s. He experienced some things I'm sure some of our viewers out there can relate to. As his children were growing up, he wanted to pass down some of these memories and lessons learned. And there came the idea of, you can't take the Bronx out of my dad. And after 4 years of hard work, his book was published this year. And we welcome now to the show Ken. And Ken, congratulations on the book.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. First of all, book is self-published.
It is self-published.
And 4 years in the making.
4 years in the making. It was self-published by my brother, Rich Hand, who has a startup company called Handwritten Productions.
And so he was able to help you get this book published. And for those people who may not be so familiar with the book, why don't you share with us a little bit about it?
Well, in short, the book is about a young boy who grew up in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx during the 70s and the 80s. But I think the book is about a lot more. It's about an amazing place, an amazing time in this country, a place that I don't think will ever exist again. And the way I realized that, when you're living through the 70s and the 80s, you're just living your life. You don't realize what an amazing time it is, or it was. But what I do, or when I had my children, Kelsey and Cameron, one of the things that we used to do on Saturdays is that was our time to get together and spend time together. During the week I was busy at work and they're busy at school and doing whatever they had to do. So we'd let my wife sleep and we'd go out and we'd do our thing at McDonald's and we'd go have our hot cakes and we'd talk about our week and how, what we did. And what I started doing when they were very young, when they were about to experience something, whether it be the first day of school or a sports team, I tried to tell them stories about my childhood growing up to try to prepare them for what they might experience. And, so for example, when they were very young, I talked about the first day of school, and I talked about how I ran away from school and how the teacher had to chase me down. And I tell them very innocent stories like that. I told them about bullies and experiences that I dealt with when I had to deal with bullies and people like that, and just general embarrassing situations. And in the book, early on, you get that kind of an innocent feel to it, just kind of talking to my kids about what they may or may not experience when they're young. And what I found is that my kids got a kick out of those very innocent stories. And as they got older, we've gone to McDonald's for over 10 years now, I guess it is. And so as they've gotten older and they've gone through different experiences, we talk about different, more grown-up things. And what I found is that as I talked about what my life was like growing up in the Bronx, compared to the life they're living, which is in suburbia, the parents...
Vast differences.
Vast differences. We talk about my childhood and how it was. When I was 8, 9 years old, I was allowed to go out and play in the park, go meet up with my friends. I tell a story in there about my first day of Kingsbridge Little League, where I had tryouts, and I had to go to Van Cortlandt Park, and I lived on 233rd Street, and I walked there by myself. And you're crossing over, busy streets, you're walking by, different types of people that, that now parents would worry about, But now, with my kids, if they go around the corner, we want them to give us a call once they get there.
Exactly. What's going on, and you got to let us know. You got some interesting chapters in your book. I want you to share a little bit about the chapters, because I see one chapter deals with the origin of species, and that talks a little bit about family. We talked about that. Then you go into this little biblical thing, talk about Genesis.
Genesis, yes. Actually, Genesis is just the section of the book where I'm talking about just my early days, my first day of school, talking about dealing with bullies and dealing with different situations. So that's very lighthearted. But later on, I get more into the Bronx, into the real meat of the book, where I would consider the meat of the book to be the Godwin gang. When I was 12, 13 years old, it's not really a gang, it's just a street in the Bronx right off of 231st Street. But I talk about the relationships and the friendships that developed during those years of my life. And I talk about, in the Bronx, you could go around the corner and there were literally dozens and dozens of kids to play with, to hang out with. And on Godwin Terrace, a number of people hung out there, and we became very good friends. And what I think is very interesting, and I think what's different is, now the way my children are growing up or living in suburbia, you have a few friends here and there, and maybe you get to know them well, maybe you don't, maybe you move around a little bit. But in the Bronx growing up, the friends that we developed during that time of our lives were friends that we still have now. A few years ago in Manhattan College, there was a neighborhood reunion, and 1,400 people came back to the neighborhood. That's something that most people don't experience, and I think that says a lot about the type of place that we grew up and the types of friendships that we developed.
So you've encompassed all of this into the book, and now you've got this book out. Talk to us about the process now. You've got it out, and people are watching and reading, and there's been a good response to it.
There's been an overwhelming response. Now, when I originally wrote the book, really, I guess the idea behind it was I just wanted to put down the stories that I told my children. And I mentioned my brother earlier. My brother's written a couple of books, and so he helped me, and he was really kind of the inspiration to making this into a book that I could market. And so I put together the stories, and really the book is 500 pages. It could have been 1,000 pages. I had to cut out a lot of very interesting stories, but hopefully what I left in there people will still find interesting. But I decided I'll put the book together, but I didn't know what the response was going to be. So I just had a couple hundred books printed, and I self-marketed it. I marketed it through Facebook, through email, through word of mouth, and the response has been overwhelming. I only have a few dozen copies left, and that's after purchasing a couple hundred. And most of the people purchasing the book were people who grew up in the neighborhood. So a lot of friends, but what I'm finding now is as the word spreads, people from Washington and from Texas and Florida, from all over the country are asking for the book. So I'm going to have to do another printing, that's for sure.
Beautiful.
But yeah, the response has been overwhelming. The emails that I've received from family and friends has been very touching, so it's been well received.
So you've got a few books left. You're trying to get those out. I want to talk a little bit more about the, some of the things that you got going on in the book. You have this particular chapter deals with crime and punishment.
Crime and punishment. Yes. Well, with crime and punishment now, and there was an article done in the Riverdale Press, and they did a review on the book, and the crime and punishment section is probably what jumps out at most people who didn't grow up in the Bronx, because I talk about certain things that we did that we shouldn't have, but the main theme of the book is about family, is about friendships. But I did want to put a real, I wanted to talk about some of the things that we did, which at the time we didn't think we were bad kids. We just thought we were doing things that thought we were having fun. But looking back on it, it was things that we shouldn't have gotten involved in. And these are, when I told my kids these stories, really the intent of it was to say, kids make bad decisions sometimes, and you shouldn't give up on them. So even though kids might be involved in things that they shouldn't be, they're good kids underneath. And I'd like to think that, I'm proof of that. Now I'm sitting here with you on this TV show after doing some things that I shouldn't have done.
What do your kids say when they've, now that you put the book out, and, there's got to be some good reaction out of your kids knowing that, this book is out and talks and gives them some instruction at the same time that's very reflective of your life?
Yeah, I think they're very supportive. They brought the book into school and they've shown their friends. And really the way the book is written, it's about the conversations that I've had with my kids. So you literally see my daughter Kelsey and my son Cameron making comments as I'm telling stories. And so, and I actually have them listed as a couple of the authors also. So I think that adds to it, and I think they feel real good about the book, and they're very proud of it, and I think they're proud of me for writing it, so it feels good.
About to get out of here, but before we do, let's tell people how they can get their hands on the book. You can't take the Bronx out of my dad. Well, how do they get a copy?
Well, you could order a copy on Amazon. If you just query, "You can't take the Bronx out of my dad," it'll come up there. You can order a copy there. I do have a website. called I'm Not a Smart Man, But, so you can order it there also. I'm also working with a bookstore to try to get it out in bookstores here in the future. So hopefully in the near future, you'll be able to pick it up at a local bookstore.
All right. Well, Ken, thank you so much, and congratulations on the book.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Best wishes to you, and thanks for sharing your story.
All right. Thank you.
All right. You can't take the Bronx out of my dad. Well, I want you to stay with us, because coming up next after the break, we're going to introduce you to the owner of Actors Technique. They'll be right here on the set, and we encourage you to stay with us. We'll come right back with more right after this.
This is so cool, Dad. Awesome. This is so cool, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Did you find the flashlight and the batteries?
Yes.
Did you make sure we're not missing anything in the first aid kit?
Yep.
Did you go through the plan with the kids again?
Yes.
The more you prepare today, the more you'll be able to reduce the devastating effects of a tornado, an earthquake, a power outage, or any other disaster. Welcome home, man.
Mom? I'm not gonna go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job, and...
Son, college is much more important.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom.
Yes.
Anyways, it's my decision.
Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get, because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college.
And welcome back to Open. Darren Jaime here with you. Remember, we are a live and interactive talk show, so we always encourage you to join in on the conversation by calling 718-960-7241, or if you want to, just send us an email to open@bronxnet.org. Well, the Actors Technique is an organization that's dedicated to teaching students of all ages how to master the skill of acting. But before we can meet the man behind this organization, we're going to take a look at how the future stars of Hollywood get their acting chops. Let's take a look.
There was just something about acting that I've always wanted to do, and I thought that Actors Technique would be a perfect place to start.
I've been with Actors Technique for 3 years.
And I keep coming back because it's a lot of fun. I love to spend my weekends here, and I'm also learning a lot.
I feel that I've evolved so much from being here at Actors Technique. I've learned everything from Shakespeare classes to sitcom acting to commercial work.
We're learning how to be confident, to be real.
And he's just got a huge growth in his confidence.
What separates you is the way you see copy.
The first thing I did was a pilot for a little kids show.
I've booked Doubt with Meryl Streep, and I've done Brighton Beach Memoirs on Broadway. I've booked Olive Garden, Scholastic. I got an AT&T commercial callback. I got a manager. I got an agent through Actors Technique. The agent showcases are great.
I had so much fun at every class that I was in. I never wanted to leave.
I really love it.
We want them to feel great about who they are.
My confidence has really grown.
Honestly, it's the best thing that's come into my life.
I'd recommend Actors Technique to anyone who wants to become an actor.
Actors Technique. Our career is making yours.
And now here to tell us more about his career as an actor for over 20 years and how he began Actors Technique is Todd Edelson. And we welcome him now to the show. And Todd, good to have you.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
As you see these young people very enthused, and you can tell they're mastering the craft at a young age, and obviously that's a goal that you guys have.
Yeah. Well, you want to get them young because you can learn a lot of good habits and a lot of bad habits when you're young. And when you're young, you really absorb so much. So we get them and we start them at about 4 years old, and we can take them all the way up to 18, and that's our youth division. And when they're young, we teach them a lot of things. Not only acting skills and audition skills, but we teach them professionalism. What it means to be respectful of others when they're on stage, what it means to be on time. So it's not only a very strong acting school for kids and teens, it's also, you also learn a lot of life lessons while you're there.
So there's a lot of inner discipline that comes along with it.
There has to be.
What does somebody get walking through the door? Because if you walk through the door, a lot of people have actors, aspirations in the realm of acting. How do you guys assess a person and then moving forward?
Sure. Well, you get honesty and sincerity. We will put you in class. We won't deny you class. We'll put you in class and we'll monitor you as you go. But we don't really use words like star quality and things like that. We just say that we're going to move you along and we're going to find progress. Your goal is to beat your own record week after week. It's not you against the person to the left or the right of you. It's you against yourself week after week, month after month, year after year. And we'll introduce you to industry as well. Agents, managers, casting directors for commercials, TV, film, and Broadway. And so as we go, we don't make promises, we don't make unrealistic guarantees. You get sincerity, you get honesty, and we stay with you.
But it's honestly an opportunity to have some sort of networking to go to that next level if you desire it. So you do have an opportunity to be introduced to those people who are at the next level, whether it's that manager, whether it's that, that next person in line, or, a casting person, right?
Sure. I mean, representation by an agent or a manager is not a right, it's a privilege. So not everybody gets representation. We hope you do, and because if you do, and you get out there and you audition and you book, we look good. But we're very honest about it. All of our agent showcases for our students are free.
So when you have this program, obviously you got a lot of kids participating. What's the enrollment like?
Oh, it's good. I mean, we have a lot. We don't really advertise. We don't do a lot of advertising at all. We have a Facebook page, Actors Technique New York. So, and we have our own emails that we send out, but we don't really advertise. We get manager referrals, we get agent referrals, and we have a lot of repetition with our students who have always been in our class. They stay with us. So once they're with us, they want to stay with us because it's a fun place to be.
Walk us through the classes themselves, because somebody might be out there saying, listen, maybe this is something I want my child or my young person to be involved in. When they come in the door, obviously you do your assessment, and then where does it go from there?
Sure. Our classes are age divided. So our tots are in our tots classes, our preteens are in our preteens class, our teens are in our teens class. And then we just get you in there and we let the teachers take over. Our teachers are instructors who have been on Broadway. We have instructors from Jersey Boys, Little Mermaid, Chorus Line, Phantom, all that sort of stuff. And then we have very tenured 20-year coaches. So we put them in there, and then every couple classes we talk to you as the parent, and we tell you how your child is doing and the steps that they're taking. And every so often, we'll let the parents in the last 10 minutes of class, just so they can see what they're paying for and they can see the progress of their child. On camera, off camera, they just want to see what their child is doing, and their child is usually taking steps, and they gain an awful lot of confidence along the way.
Throwing you a beach ball here, but tell us a little bit about the success stories.
Well, you heard some of them in the videos. Bridget was in Doubt with Meryl Streep. She had 5 scenes. We've had people on Broadway. We've had people in all the Law and Orders and the soap operas. You can't turn on the TV without seeing one of our kids. They're in national commercials. They're in print jobs. They're doing voiceovers. They're doing Umi Zumi. Whatever it is, they're doing it. We just had 2 booked on Sesame Street, some of our younger ones. So they're always booking week after week.
What do do you say to people who just, you know, because everybody has acting aspiration, but everybody doesn't always make it to the big screen?
Yeah.
Give that advice, because we got to keep it real.
I hear you. I hear you. No, we got to keep it real, and we do keep it real. Every day we keep it real. You defined your own successes. Success isn't necessarily getting representation. Success isn't necessarily booking a TV show or TV series. You define your own successes along the way, and that's it. Not everybody can book it. The odds are against you, but that's all part of competition. You learn how to handle rejection. We talk about that. We educate the parent, and your job, first and foremost, is to become a professional and enjoy the ride, because this business is 99% the process.
With shows like American Idol and these other reality shows that we see that are, you know, talent-based, are we seeing more of an increase of people trying to, you know, get into the field?
Well, you're in the field. I mean, you're in the field. A lot of people want to be in the field. I mean, in our adults division, we have people who are lawyers and doctors and salespeople who want to get into it part-time. I think a lot of people have that aspiration, but I think they have the need to express their creativity. And a lot of people like to do it, and I think it's great, whether you do it full-time or part-time. Some of the reality shows I actually enjoy. Some of them I probably don't enjoy because they're taking scripted shows away from actors. And that's just the reality of it. You got to deal with it. But by and large, I think that some of the talent-based reality shows, it's fun.
Right. But you made a very important statement. It does take away from, you know, real scripted shows that you could really have bona fide actors in, and that's.
Well, if you can always do community theater, you can always do theater. You can always be doing things to increase your acting chops. But we not only have very strong acting classes, but we are the segue to the next level of agents, managers, and casting directors. We make no guarantees. We just put our foot forward with you, and we train you at very reasonable prices.
Talk to us about people, before we leave out, people who might want to be involved. They're watching this and they're saying, listen, this might be something I want to get my young person involved in. What do they do?
Well, there's a number of things. You can give us a call. You can go to our webpage, actorstechniqueny.com. You can go to our Facebook, right? And, you know, we're happy to email you. We're happy to give you a call and talk to you. And we're happy to invite you in. No obligation. Just come on in, see the place. We operate out of Pearl Studios in Manhattan off of 35th Street. We'll give you our time whether you enroll or not. We want your experience to be good.
Okay. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Good to have you. All righty. Well, we encourage you to find out more. You saw the information at the bottom of the screen. If you desire more information, go ahead and tap in and log in and check it out on the website, and there you'll be able to find out more. All right, well, we want to let you know there is more Open coming up right after these messages. Please don't go anywhere. But before we go, actually, let's do this. The New York Botanical Garden is actually hosting its 21st annual Bronx Day at the Garden's Clay Family Picnic Pavilion. The entire community is invited to take part in an afternoon of family fun. The event also includes musical entertainment, some face painting if you got the kids out there, they want to do face painting, got some raffle prizes, and even more.
The New York Botanical Gardens held its 21st annual Bronx Day at the Clay Family Pavilion, welcoming Bronxites with face painting, music, and of course, the hula hoop.
It's so amazing. The Botanical Gardens are gorgeous. Everyone's having such a great time. The music's lovely. The weather's beautiful. I'm having a great time. I can't believe this is my job. This is what I do for a living.
This father of two has been attending Bronx Day for 3 years and recognizes the importance of celebrating the Bronx at the Botanical Gardens.
It means getting together and acknowledging and appreciating the Bronx. You know, the Bronx is like a hidden gem to a lot of people. We have the Botanical Garden, we have the Bronx Zoo, and just having some place that we can celebrate together as Bronxites with music and all the cultural stuff and people coming together, you know, as one is just, that's what it is, you know, for us.
And the event played host to various community organizations and vendors, but most important, the day was about celebrating the children and family here in the borough.
And the borough president is One Bronx, and we all work together for the betterment of our kids.
amazing music, and beautiful weather were all in attendance at the 21st Annual Bronx Day at the Botanical Garden. This is Sylvia Anglin for BronxNet.
When it's time for lunch, a sandwich is a quick and easy choice. And with the right ingredients, it can be good and good for you. So I'm here today to see who can build the ultimate sandwich. All right, when the time is up, our judges will give you their scores. Ready, set, go! Okay, Jason starts out with a multi-grain roll. Ooh, Allison's stuffing her pita with, yes, spinach, a great source of iron. Jason isn't skipping on the protein, adding plenty of smoked turkey, just like Allison's putting the finishing touches with crispy red bell peppers for a dose of vitamin A. Time! It looks like we have a tie. We'll need to call in our special guest referee.
Now these are what I call quick, delicious lunches. Whole grain breads, a whole variety of ingredients. There are so many different ways to build delicious, healthy sandwiches. These two get high marks in every category. I'd say you're both winners. America.
Let's get healthy together.
I'm lucky. Let me help you with that. I get to do something I love. It has nothing to do with touchdowns or titles. Everybody bring it in. I get to play a part in the life of someone just starting out. How many of you think homework is just as important as teamwork? I help keep kids in school. Good. And that's the name of the game. My name is LaDainian Thomason. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United.
We're back here on Open, as always. Darren Jaime here with you, and so glad to have you with us on this beautiful Wednesday. Well, our next guest, is the founder and executive director of Lit World. The mission of Lit World is to spread literacy throughout the world, from New York to Africa. Pam's organization has already changed the lives of thousands of children, and today she's here to talk about some of Lit World's newest initiatives, as well as some programs. And we welcome now to the show the executive director, Pam Allen, and we welcome you to Open.
Thanks so much for having me.
Good to have you. When you talk about literacy, obviously major issue across the United States. You have the opportunity not just to take it from a local base, but you're speaking it from a local base to an international base. Share with us a little bit about Lit World.
Well, Lit World, I am a longtime literacy advocate, activist, educator, and I do believe that literacy is the key element to human rights, especially for children. It's people who can read and write are healthier, more likely to get work, more likely to have relationships that last throughout their lifetimes, and all of that just really does connect back to, are you a reader? Are you someone who believes that words can change you in some way? And especially now in the 21st century with the internet, I think there's never been a more important time to be literate. But when I travel around this country and when I travel around the world, I still see so many children who are struggling as readers, not being provided access to books in their homes or in their schools, not provided access to technology which will give them closeness to words and to text, stories, poems, information. So there's really, it's a big issue, and it's a human rights issue, and I really think the people who suffer the most from illiteracy are children, so they're not the first to be advocating for themselves. So Lit World's job is really to be the voice for children as readers. Mm-hmm.
Share with us a little bit about how you extend across the borders, because that's very important as well.
Yeah, well, that's a huge part of what Lit World is doing, which is to say that I believe that the power of story is that you can connect to people around the world, and to have people come out of isolation and into a big sort of global community because we can communicate with each other through stories. Lit World has one of our biggest programs is our Lit Clubs, but literacy clubs for boys and girls around the world that are connecting via the internet, via blogging, via tweeting, via Facebook, sharing stories that we're writing, sharing stories that they're reading. And in this way, children who might have otherwise felt very isolated are coming together in a global way.
This number is outstanding to me. It says worldwide at least 774 million people are illiterate.
At least. That's a
774 million.
At least. That's probably a very conservative estimate, because we're also counting people who are what is called functionally literate, which means you can, read, maybe you can read something very simply. But even that, I think, really is a barrier for people who are not comfortable readers, who feel like maybe reading doesn't feel so good. It means you're a little less likely to get on an unfamiliar subway. You're a little less likely to maybe get your prescription refilled. You're a little less likely to say, I want to learn something new, so I'm going to log on, or I'm going to go to the library. And so all these ways, being not fully functionally or even transformationally literate keeps us from achieving and from going to where we want to go.
I guess consequently, you have a marginalized life by being illiterate.
It's much more marginalized than you might even realize in terms of the work that I've done over these years with children. When they talk to me about feeling like they can't read, or talk to me about feeling like they can't write, and adults too, they'll say the world feels blurry. You feel like you're a little off balance all the time. And I really want all children to feel like they're on the equal playing field.
Got some new initiatives coming up. Share with us a little bit about that.
Well, we have two going on this summer. One is we're doing our fifth trip to Kenya. We have a school that we work with there called the Red Rose Primary School, and it's a wonderful school. It's in an area called Kibera, which is about the size of Central Park and has over 250,000 HIV/AIDS orphans living within that area. And this school is doing transformational work around literacy, and we support the school. And we go there and do teacher trainings. We start lit clubs there, book clubs for boys and girls as readers. And we're going to be visiting back in July 8th we're leaving. We're doing a book drive right now on our Lit World website. If people are interested, they can come on, log on, and help us with the books that we've selected to bring. And then we've got a program right up in Harlem. We've got a story camp going. It's our first one. It's our inaugural camp. We're hoping we'll be able to expand. So next summer we've got many more of them going around the city. And basically, again, it's really to infuse children with the idea that reading can be powerful. It builds empathy, it builds understanding, and that it's something that children, we hope, find comfort in, rather than feel anxious and panicked every time a teacher asks them to read something.
How can the public engage in these in story camp and things like that in your new initiatives?
We love everyone to be involved. So we welcome everyone in the Bronx to get involved. We're looking actually this fall, we're going to start an initiative, a junior ambassador program in the Bronx, where young people can help us to mobilize for Lit World, for the cause, in two ways. One, in terms of advocacy. We have World Read Aloud Day coming up on March 9th this year, and we are asking for young people to join us in that effort to spread the word, so we get millions of people involved on World Read Aloud Day, and also for fundraising to help us raise the funds that we need to train teachers and to bring books where they're needed and to bring computers where they're needed, and to make sure that we can open and expand our Lit Club mission.
So when you want to find out more information about Lit World and want to let you know how to get in touch with Lit World, Pam's going to tell us right now. And how do you do that?
Well, the best way is litworld.org, or we also have a Facebook page. We love our Facebook page. In fact, next week I'm doing an open teach-in for anyone who's interested, parents, children, teachers, on my Facebook page through Ustream. I'm not exactly sure what day it is, but we can check on the Lit World site or go to the Facebook page, and anybody who wants to can join in. I'm going to answer questions on what you can do to get your kid reading more at home or in school.
What can we do right now? This is a short-term answer. Might have some parents, watching right now and saying, listen, the summer's here, child is out from school. What can we do to get our kids more engaged in the area of literacy?
Well, you know what? Number one is that we are our kids' best role models. So not to say when I'm not going to let you do your video game unless you read a book implies that there's something kind of punitive about reading a book. We have to show that we care about reading. And even if as adults, people listening might feel like, well, I'm not so much of a reader myself, just to take the plunge, and visit the library with your child. It doesn't have to be a fancy book, a long book. Let it be a book about something you're both interested in. If you like sports, or you like animals, or you like games, find a book about that. And let there be a time each day. Maybe it's right when you're making dinner, or maybe it's right when you get home from work. Maybe it's at 6:30 a.m. before everyone's rushing off to camp and all different things. To sit down together on the couch, sit outside on the stoop, wherever you are, and just have 10 minutes that you're reading with your child. And let the child turn the pages. You can talk about the pictures. Also, not to judge your child as a reader, not to say that's too easy, that book, or to say you've already read that book. I just came out with a new book myself called Best Books for Boys.
Mm-hmm.
We notice, especially in the U.S., there's a big issue that boys are not thriving in school. They're dropping out of school at much higher rates than girls are. It's a real crisis in our country. And in some ways, I think as men, men need to really present themselves as readers to boys so that boys can see that men do read, and also as women to say that we're going to embrace boys' interests and passions, and that reading doesn't always have to be about chapter books about girls, but there's lots of things to read about. So I think the main message is that we have to model how passionate reading really feels for us, and that reading is a very varied thing now, that reading Facebook is a way of reading, and reading a comic or a graphic novel is another way of reading, and that all of those ways of reading are valuable.
So we encourage you to find out more about Lit World. You saw the information at the bottom of the screen. We encourage you to take advantage of some of the opportunities that you can to help in the area of literacy. An amazing statistic, 774 million people, and that's just a lowball number, are estimated to be illiterate across the world right now, 774. Well, thank you for the great work that you're doing, Pam.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully people will find out more about Lit World and take part in these camps and help illiteracy.
I hope so.
All righty, Pam,
All right,
thank you so much. And best wishes. Oh, I can't do this. Let me do this. You got the book out. Where did they get the book?
Oh, well, it's called Pam Allen's Best Books for Boys. It's published by Scholastic, and it's in lots of places, Amazon, independent bookstores, Barnes & Noble, online at litworld.org. You can find it there, too.
Gotta make sure we got that in. Thanks a lot. All right, Pam, thank you for joining us, and we want you to stay with us, because up next, we're going to take you out into the open. Guess what? 2 exclusive events. We don't want you to go anywhere. We don't want you to miss it. So what do you have to do? You have to stay with us. We're coming right back.
Megan, you're a tramp. Ryan Fitch told me you guys made out. Everybody knows. He says you're the most desperate girl he knows, besides your mom. How many boyfriends does she have anyway? Lots? That zit is huge. Zit face. Ugly.
My name's Brandon. I'm 9 years old, being alcoholic.
Hi, Brandon.
I'll start drinking with the older kids. And whatever they do, I'll do.
Kids who drink before age 15 are 5 times more likely to have alcohol problems when they're adults. So start talking before they start drinking.
I know I'll start with alcohol. I'm just not sure how it's gonna end.
Mom, I'm not gonna go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job and...
Son, college is much more important.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom.
Yes.
Anyways, it's my decision.
Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get, because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college.
Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone. But you're not alone. At IAVA.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. IAVA.org. We've got your back.
And welcome back to Open. Darren Jaime here with you, and so glad you are sharing with us. Recently, the Institute for Special Education in the Pelham Parkway section of the Bronx, they actually celebrated their 180th anniversary with food, games, and lots of fun. Open's ability correspondent, Lord Silent, was there, and he gives us a closer look.
The New York School for Special Education in the Pelham Parkway, Bronx, celebrated their 180th anniversary. This is a school in the Bronx that was one of 11 schools that was slated for closure. They celebrated their anniversary and had a flag raising as well as music, fun, food, and children's activities.
I think this is a school that is able to individualize instruction and foster success and individualize for all our kids. That's the message and that's the importance. And I know in other school settings where our students have come from, they didn't get those services. They come here, we have to catch them up, we have to build self-esteem, we have to give them the appropriate materials for learning, and we see our kids blossom because of that.
This school proves that with hard work, dedication, and love, with everyone working as a team, anything can be accomplished.
Well, this is my first fun day. I only came to the New York Institute last summer, but I see it as an opportunity for the children to spend time not only with their peers, but children from the other programs here at the New York Institute. So it creates a real sense of community and also provides the kids with an opportunity to recognize that despite any disabilities one might have, we are all human beings and deserve that respect.
One teacher at the school tells the story that in the 1800s, children with visual impairments as well as blind were considered outcasts.
I would just say, you know, put a full investment into that kid. Make it your passion. Make it, you know, where you go ahead and you see, you know, athletic runners and everything else, making it their passion to get into the Olympics. It's become your challenge and your chance to really prove yourself as a parent. And, you know, we prove ourselves as a teacher by working with these kids, by giving them skills that they wouldn't get in a lot of other places.
Well, as you can see, programs like this should be fun on a day like this and should exist for people with abilities as well as disabilities. Reporting from 999 Pelham Parkway in the Bronx, I'm Lauren Seiler for Open.
And thank you. That's the one and only Lawrence Seiler. We take you now to a symposium that was held by the New York City Department of Probation, and the Bronx Borough President, Ruben Diaz Jr., provided professional and life-changing services to those who are both juvenile and adult offenders. Our Sylvia Anglin has the story, and she gives us a closer look.
Too often, young men and women find themselves entangled in the criminal justice system, and all too often they end up convicted, serve time, and released without proper skills, education, and resources to re-enter society. The symposium, Small Steps, Big Chances, is a first of its kind here in the Bronx.
One of the big needs in terms of the criminal justice and juvenile justice systems is to get community more involved. It's important that we dialogue and actually sit down and work together.
The New York City Department of Probation wants to provide the necessary resources to help with former offenders.
We're actually here to get personal outcomes for people on probation. Growth, a change of direction, so that they can be part of the community in a way that is productive for them and for the community.
The next step is getting them into school, getting them education, getting them the services that they need.
The symposium also offered ex-offenders an opportunity to learn what resources and organizations are at their disposal.
Individuals with criminal justice issues tend to find difficulties dealing with their barriers and trying to find employment. Knowing what to say to an employer, how can they let the employer know that they made their mistakes. And our job is just to basically assist them finding employment, you know, speaking to employers, letting them know their mistakes, they're wrong for their rights, and giving them a second chance.
The relevance of this symposium to the community at large is that many of those who find themselves re-entering society most often lack the basics like housing, state ID, social security, and in some cases even their birth certificates.
Without that identification, it's hard for them to get education, it's hard for them to get employment, and they need that.
The conference touched on various different criminal justice elements ranging from education, juvenile justice, adult and juvenile sex offenders.
For some people, it is as basic as where am I going to live? You know, what am I going to eat? How am I going to survive? And so some of these organizations help to stabilize people, to give them that basic level of support.
The message today is if you're willing to try, there is always help. From the Bronx Supreme Courthouse, this is Sylvia Anglin for BronxNet.
There was just something about acting that I've always wanted to do.
I'm Darren Jaime. We thank you, of course, for joining us and you, the viewer, tuning in. Remember, you can catch a recable cast of Open tonight at 10 p.m. And, of course, you can catch my girl, Rena Valentine, on Friday for a brand new episode of Open. For all of us here on the set, thanks for watching. Until the next time we meet, keep your heart, your mind, and most of all, this channel wide open. Darren Jaime saying take care.